Well, I want to give you a little more on this Deagel.com population statistics for 2025. Boy, they got a real drastic thing. Now, I'm going to give you some common sense things more than I did on my other video I put out on this. Actually, well, I'm just going to kind of like play the advocate's devil. I say, yeah, it's going to be true, right? Now, their predictions of dropping the population to 20% of its level, what it is today in the United States, by the year 2025, is not based upon a war. No war, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you what the deal is as far as, no other angles are not going into their explanation, and it's just basic um, macroeconomics, and it's pretty simple, but nobody mentions it too. That's the other thing. Nobody mentions it. Um, Now they say that a lot of the true numbers are being hidden from the public by the government, like the employment participation rate and things, and the creditary expansion and other things. But I want to get into other things here, and it's going to be using pure common sense, pure logic, real simple stuff, nothing really complicated. And usually my style is like that because sometimes they refer to common sense as business sense. And this is one of the reasons I was like usually the main guy around, a very aggressive entrepreneur as their accountant. I mean, it wasn't so much all about the numbers. It was about just understanding the landscape. So Deagel.com predicts this draconian reduction in the population of the United States, mainly due to exodus. Now, when you're thinking about people, say, leaving the United States, what kind of people would leave the United States? People who have the means to do so. In other words, the average person doesn't have the means to do that. It's like, say they live in a house. They would what would they do? I mean, they'd have to sell their house, right? And say everybody was trying to move out of the United States, what would happen? Or a lot of people, not everybody, would say there was quite a few people trying to move out of an area, say the United States. What would happen to real estate prices? Who would be the buyers if people are trying to get out? Say there's something wrong with the country, right? That would be a problem. The wealthy wouldn't have much of a problem getting the hell out because they got the money to do so. The thing is, here's the other thing that people aren't really telling you. When the wealthy leave, there goes the capital. It's a flight of capital out of the United States. So if the wealthy don't no longer regard the United States as a good place to invest capital to start new business adventures, they don't want to bother with it. It's like, why did the flow of capital go to China and India or Vietnam? Because they found it a little more lucrative to go there for employment labor rates and things like that, or maybe they didn't have to deal with the EPA and as much government regulation. But the exodus of capital is really what can knock down the GDP of the United States a lot. And actually, right now there's a game going on in the world, and there's like major power centers. There's like the European Union is a major power center. Um, China is a major power center. Russia is a major power center, I think, if you would say. Japan, United States, of course, and maybe I'm leaving out some like North African and the Libya and the Middle East. OPEC might be a power center. Some of the BRIC nations as a group. But what happens is there's always a competition going on between people, and the winner, say there's like an economic downturn, and it could even be like in a case, I'm not talking about war coming up, but say like in World War II, if we didn't win the war, all the capital wouldn't have went to us. It would have went to Japan and Germany. But also there's situations where you have economic competition, and everybody's grabbing for the last chairs in a merry-go-round, to get the seat and be in a driver's seat. Well, you know, last man standing is where all the capital flows to. It's like in military wars and also economic wars. Now, we do have a lot of underlying problems that are being hidden in the United States as far as real serious garbage that's going on. I'm just using it in real simple terms, but the wealthy would pick up and leave this country if things start getting where it's not a nice place for them to do business or even stay. It's just like Jim Rogers moved out, many years ago to Singapore. You would see a lot of other established wealthy just pick up and go. Not like everybody. I'm not saying that, but you would see an exodus out. And once the wealthy get out, there goes the capital flow. There goes all the reinvestment, which really kills the economy because they got the money to reinvest in business, and that's what's hiring. That's the driving force behind the economy too, right? Now, as there's an exodus, there's also a depression of land values. Now, I'm showing a map here. This is actually from like a Federal Reserve map, and it's not really related exactly to what I'm talking about, but you can draw an analogy. Like the color states that are kind of reddish are where property values went down. The color states where they're greenish at this time frame is where, I think this is back in 2010 or something, where the property values went up. Now, as economies build up in a country, the real estate values go up. Just as businesses move in a local area, as an aggregate in the country, the property values go up. But also, as businesses move in an area, like a state or whether it's a county or a city, that causes property values to go up. When there's more infrastructure put in there, more pipelines, more roadways, more grid lines with the electrical system and all that, property values go up as the area becomes developed. Now, one problem we have in the United States is that, I'm not trying to really put it down, but we haven't really been reinvesting, and this is the fault of our crappy government, in our infrastructure, like the bridgeways, the dams, the roadways, and the bridges. You can hear there's a lot of problems with the bridges, the airports, the subway system. They haven't been reinvesting in that in the United States. Now, I think that's eventually going to really affect the overall property values. But the thing is, when the wealthy, if there's ever like an effect where the wealthy decide this country, or just not like all of them, but say just a significant amount, decide to pick up and leave and go somewhere else. Say it's like what Singapore, or I don't know, someplace where maybe it's China, maybe it's India, whatever, but or Thailand, like Mark Farber went to, right? They just, they might do that. They may do that and take their money with them. Say to hell with it. And when that happens, there goes your tax base. There goes your money for infrastructure. There goes everything. Now, like I said, it even works like when there's an economic downturn. There's a competition to get the capital in your area, and a lot of things like this. Even like when you're looking at on local levels, it's a big sales pitch. To try to get investors into something, and once you get something rolling, it just takes a life of its own, right? But you can have the ball rolling the other way, and actually, the United States does look like, due to poor leadership for so long, that it's on a decline. It's like, maybe this 21st century that we're pretty early into is probably not going to be the good century for the United States of America. It doesn't have to be that way, but there's going to have to be a serious readjustment. Now, here's something else I was looking at. I always talked about high oil prices or high gasoline prices. Right now, gasoline prices are very low. It's right down. You probably can't read this chart. 220. You say $2 a gallon or $2.25 a gallon average for the second quarter of 2016. Now, in U.S. dollars, Norway is $6.53 a gallon. Netherlands is $6.33 a gallon. Sweden is $5.94 a gallon. Now you say, well, maybe that's because they got to import their oil. Well, you know what? They got the North Sea oil, and are also close to Russia. I mean, Russia can pipe oil into them, no problem. They're right across on the Baltic Sea, right? No problem. Look at Italy, $6.15 a gallon. Why is it? It's like there's no reason why these prices can't really come to the United States at one time pretty fast. Um, I think they're keeping the prices down right now as because they want to reelect the Communist Democratic Party and the Obama machine going along with. I know Obama and Hillary don't get along, but they want to keep that. The elite want to keep their communist type candidate in power, and so one of the ways you can really knock somebody out is like raise the gasoline prices because it hurts everybody in the lower and middle classes and the lower classes, and everybody gets pissed off and they vote whoever's in office out. Keeping the gas prices low artificially, I think that's what's going on in the United States because like we're right on par with Russia. Russia's a big gas station. Now look what happened over here in the United States. We're basically they're $2.15 a gallon when you do an exchange rate, and we're $2.15 a gallon. Even Iran is like $1.50 a gallon. I mean, God, Saudi's 92 cents a gallon. You know why that is. But U.S. and Russia are right next to each other in equivalent in gasoline price. And you look at Russia, that's their big, that's what they got. Oil up to yin yang, right? One of the largest. They're like right neck and neck with Saudi in producing crude oil, right? So, I can tell you that we might see some serious jacked up fuel prices, if there's a turnover in whatever. I mean, after this, I don't think whoever gets elected, I think they're just keeping this crap down to try to get Hillary elected right now, and as far as gas prices and also the market in equities, they're trying to keep the equities high and the gasoline prices low. Until she gets elected, if she does get elected, I don't know if she is or isn't, but and also you look at Italy. Italy $6.15 a gallon. Now a lot of people don't realize Italy and France were the major, especially Italy, and that's left out of the news, left and right. There was Italian companies, oil companies that moved into Libya when they overthrew Gaddafi. Oh, they leave Italy out all the time. It's always the big Zionist conspiracy on the YouTube, right? And like I said, I'm mainly Italian, right? I'm telling you the truth, man. I'm not knocking my own freaking ethnicity here, right? But I'm telling you the truth. That's exactly what the deal is. It's not what the freaking YouTubers keep telling you. Actually, Italy was the main benefactor of, but why the benefactor of Gaddafi getting knocked out of power. Their companies moved in here. But why is the gasoline, since they're right across the street, basically, right across the Mediterranean, the little pond, why are they paying $6.15 a gallon for gasoline? Well, it's taxed and all this other stuff. But that's coming to the United States too. As a matter of fact, I think they're probably going to raise the tax on gasoline quite a bit due to the infrastructure problem with the roadways, because that's how it's paid with the gasoline tax, right? Now, here's another thing, and this is where I definitely think economic collapse is coming to the United States. It's the credit card debt, and this is actually from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. It's older research, maybe going to 2010, but it's legit. It's legit. Yeah, you're showing a little drop off, but it's increased again. This is like a little bit of an outdated chart, but just to show you how much it's increased in the last 20 years. It's went up dramatically. So people are basically paying interest to banks left and right. You're paying hundreds of dollars of interest to banks. Well, I mean, if they're holding $8,000 of credit card debt, even if it's like, I don't know, 12%, whatever it is, they're paying, what, $1,000 of interest a year to the bank. That's an average person. It's quite a bit of money. You can do a lot with that money. Everybody in the world is paying that to the bank as far as people live in the United States. Now, actually, what's going on, that I don't have the chart up here, new loans are dropping off the cliff because just like people have no more to borrow against. They're like tapped out on their borrowing power. That's the whole thing that's been driving the economy is credit. Since this supposed inventory, this implosion in the economy back in 2008, 2009. Actually, the next time it's going to be like a hell of a lot worse. So, if it happens like that, and there's a lot of social unrest, and well, the money, the people with the most money are going to pick up and leave more than likely. And a lot of the people with most money, they really aren't here. Like now, if you're a manufacturer, you're not going to really pick up and leave right away. But if you're, an investment banker, and you don't have your investments in bricks and mortar on his soil, you could pick up and leave right away and take all your money with you. So, and also, I just want to put out here, when you're looking at the history of the United States, it's been a history of exodus. That's really what it was. Kind of forget about what the country says. What it is, and you're familiar with the map. But how did it form? It was an exodus out of Europe. Let's get the hell out of here. Goodbye. Well, I mean, it was a little more complicated than that. There was a lot of various reasons why. But once the East Coast was started becoming settled, people boogied and went west, or even went south. They went to Florida. They went up to Maine. Um, they went to Texas. They went to Louisiana Purchase. And it's been, our whole country has formed by migration. That's really what it is. So this is not, when you see the borders of a country, nothing is like set in stone, like, or it's like etched on the planet where it's always going to be that way. Um, I think there's a big impetus by the global elite to destroy the United States power because we have this, not just the Constitution, but we have this Bill of Rights enshrined in law that tries to protect us from the government encroaching on our individual rights, and the elitists don't like that. Now, I don't think this is so far-fetched, to tell you the truth. I think the Deagel.com's actual predictions are far-fetched, but as far as a greatly reduced GDP, military expenditures, and even population probably due to exodus, I think that is legit. And, again, I'm going to repeat, I think the gasoline prices are going to start rising and to get more on par with what's going on in the world. I mean, people say, oh, it's because U.S. has all the gasoline in the world. Yeah, we do, but except it's more expensive to produce than what the price is right now, and that's why pretty much all the oil wells have closed and shut down. The oil rigs have shut down, right? I mean, that's reality. We're getting oil cheap because we're importing it from Saudi. If that one place, actually Saudi's on the ropes right now. As a matter of fact, they're being hurt financially. They can't even. They're having problems even funding their war with Yemen. If Saudi starts having some real problems militarily, where maybe some of their oil refineries get blown up or something, boy, you're going to see prices of oil and gas go right through the roof. We can easily be on par with the $5 to $6 as the rest of the world. Like again, Italy's got oil coming from Libya. Norway and Sweden, they got oil coming from the North Sea oil. France has oil coming from, Libya. UK, also North Sea oil. Also, the UK is involved in the Libyan oil. So, it's not that ludicrous to think that, and I actually, Obama, some years ago, a couple years ago, enjoy the low gas prices or whatever your little extra money you got because of low gas prices while it lasts. He actually said that, something to that effect. And, it's like it doesn't happen in a week. It happens, over a period of time. But when it happens, it's like before you know it, right? It takes a year and all of a sudden, oh, look what happened. Everything changed. So, and when people move out, like if you have a lot of the most influential wealthy people decide to move out of the United States because, they see the writing on the wall, and they'll see the writing on the wall way before we do, or most of us do. and they have the means to move out. Nobody's really got the means to move out. I mean, you could say this, try to do it. It's not even easy to move to another state. Like I'm not even sure about moving permanently to Tennessee, but definitely want to get property up there. But if I was to permanently move to Tennessee, I realize that even though that's not that far away, that would be pretty difficult to do, and it's within the same country. Now, a lot of people trying to say get out of the United States because of problems. Hang it up, man. It's just not. It ain't gonna happen. The ones that are gonna move out easily are the people with a lot of money, and when they leave, there is the flight of capital. It's gone. It's goodbye. And I want to actually talk a little more about that flight of capital thing because it's like I said, there's economic warfare going on, between competing centers in the world, like European Union's a competing center. They're competing with us. The Chinese got a center. Japan's got a center. Russia's got a center. Some of the other BRIC centers and nations maybe have. I know Russia's a BRIC nation too, but whatever. I mean, I think Russia's kind of its own little economic center too because they got a lot of natural resources. But the United States, of course, is an economic center. But if there's competition and there's not, everybody's in debt. Well, everybody's in debt in the West. But when it's like musical chairs, the last man standing is, or the last one to get the chair, and everybody else is not. There's left stand. When it's left standing, gets left out. All the capital flows to the survivor. Maybe that's the best way to put it. It's like a war of economic attrition. That's what's going on. And it's not. It shouldn't be that way, but you know what's going on. The big banks are playing this game. But when you have an actual war, like with World War II, now if the Germans and the Japanese won, all the capital would have flowed to those nations. This nation would have been dirt poor. Since the United States won, and the United States wasn't really hit by the effects of the war, like there wasn't bombings going on or cities and factories, all the flow of capital came into this country. Now, I know it was Bretton Woods and all that, the agreement of Bretton Woods and all that, but we became like the stabilizing influence because we were the last man standing. Now, it can work in a reverse. It's like, but if there's a war, I mean, God, it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, I don't even want to imagine that. I don't even want to go down that trail, man. But the Deagel predictions are based upon no war. And I forget exactly how many years ago. I think it was about 4 years ago or so. They were predicting. This is crazy to me. I can't believe this shit. But they were saying, I think our population is like 315 million in this country, roughly. They're predicting like 67 point something million by the year 2025. About 4 years ago, they're saying this. And then they reduced that estimate to 64.9 million. Now they just reduced it again to 61.3 million. And that's mainly due to Exodus, but there's going to be a lot of problems with people, not surviving because, problems with food and all this other garbage. And, I don't want to put doom. I mean, this is shit that to me is coming down. It's pretty damn bad. But I also want to tell it to you in a common sense way because, people aren't looking at the angle about, big money flows or how it flows around the world. And big money, it's like when a country becomes stable, it's like the government's not corrupt, the crime rates are low, the infrastructure gets strong, then investment moves in and then real estate values go up. When a country starts to destabilize, in other words, like let's not use that word, like crime rate goes up, the infrastructure is falling apart, there's like more corruption in the government, whether it's city, state, local, federal, whatever, and just less stability due to problems in society, then capital gets the hell out. And that's actually what happens in even in the states. Like some of the states and some of the major cities have been decaying and people have been moving out. As a matter of fact, I I think one of the Wall Street investment bank firms is moving. What is it? Goldman Sachs is opening an office in Poland and also in Nashville, Tennessee. They're getting the hell more out of New York City. As a matter of fact, at one point in time, years ago, the corporations used to be all headquartered in New York City many years ago. Then they went right across into New Jersey, mainly into Secaucus, New Jersey. And then they went from there to Delaware. Now, I know Delaware's got specific laws to help the Fortune 500 companies and protect the corporations. But, we have actually, especially under Obama, man, we've really made it kind of difficult for businesses that really want to stay in the United States due to government policies, the EPA. As a matter of fact, even when you have global policies on the environment, they put them real strict on the United States, but they won't put them strict on China, for instance, or India, because they'll say those countries are just developing. We need to let them slide for a while till they get strong enough. That's even going on from the United Nations when they're talking about global pollution and standards of clean air. So obviously they're trying to bring the United States down to a third world country pretty much. That's why I think this Deagel.com prediction, although I can't buy into the severity of it, I think it's basically true. And it's right around the corner. Nothing's going to happen I don't think between now and the election, but after the election. Depends on who the hell wins. It don't even matter who the hell wins, because actually, if Hillary wins, they're probably still going to pull the plug on the economy anyway, because she's going to be in the driver's seat. And if Trump wins, they're going to pull the plug on the economy because he has a campaign slogan, "Let's make America great again." And it's like they're going to throw as much mud on possible as that. But again, just think about, capital, where big money goes, why it goes to another country, what makes things attractive, not attractive, and, also what's probably, besides the equities being way overpriced right now and they should be coming down, and I know they're being held up by, web bots trading with each other. The other thing that's actually going to affect the average consumer and anybody that doesn't have a lot of money, which is basically everybody, is the ordinary fuel prices are going to start going up to be more on par with what's going on in the world. And, it's not like there's going to be a lack of fuel, but it's going to be expensive. So, just want to reiterate this stuff. I think it's reality. It's not. I mean, I don't really like to put this out because it's like negative. I mean, what the hell? What can I tell you, man? I mean, I wanted to put this out because it's more stuff I didn't go over on another video I did about this Deagel.com prediction, and it's not only the creditary expansion of the government and debt, with looming debt default, but it's also the creditary expansion of the consumers. The consumers are tapped out. Like if you look, now I don't have a chart up here on new debt that's being added by consumers. New debt. The existing debt is like at a ceiling, right? New debt is dropping off the freaking side of the cliff. But new debt, how everything's been fueled before the whole economy, was through creditary expansion, taking on more debt by the consumer. They're tapped out. That's why you're seeing real retail sales drop. And that's why I'm trying to, also put more videos out on this channel that are more practical how-to videos. Because in the real world, most people spend a lot of money on fluff. And they can actually get by with a lot of the things that, they don't need the $800 iPhone or $500 iPhone and the Apple Watch. It's garbage, right? Just to pick on the product. If you probably had that pioneer spirit like people had way back when, you'd be fine. It's not like, but people got to start redirecting their energies into different things, or else they're going to be screwed. The major media, and I see all the fluff that's even on these, these four. I don't want to mention, these different business, rags that are out there, media outlets. I mean, they're telling you stuff like, how to clean your iPhone and, what's the latest Snapchat application. Who cares, man? You don't need that kind of garbage, man. You got to get down to like the nuts and bolts, the real stuff, and then you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You don't want to be living in a make-believe electronic world because people like that are going to be screwed. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it because it's Polk Man and whatever the hell else is out there. And, a lot of this debt is probably due to garbage like that, superfluous crapola that didn't do you any good at all. Like, in other words, if you got into debt for buying some welding equipment and you're out there doing something, or you got some, I don't know, mechanics tools or things to help detail cars and you're out there doing something, that's a different story. But if you got into debt for buying a bunch of fluffy gee whiz games and all this other garbage, well, you're SOL, and that's the problem. That's really what the problem is. So, and you know what? If the elite leave this country, I say good. I really don't give a shit if they do, but I realize that it's going to hurt a lot of people because it's going to take a lot of jobs with them. But you got to remember, jobs are not, if you're going back 150 years ago, you created your own job. That's really what's going to be the solution for America. Cottage industry. You don't need to be working for these assholes because they don't hire anybody unless they're getting more out of you than they're paying you. What the problem is, people they don't have the balls, or they're too scared to try to do things, a job on their own. That's 90% of the problem a lot of times too. So if you feel like, you lose that fear and you get into anything, it doesn't matter what it is, a cottage industry type of attitude, we don't need these jerks. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, they'll leave, the property values will go down, fine, whatever, and, everything will kind of fall apart in a traditional way that you view the economy. But the underground cottage industry can stay strong as long as people have a positive attitude. And what I say about the elite, good riddance, go leave. I don't give a shit where you go, because when you look at it, you got the parked cars over here, whatever the high-end freaking cars they have. It's probably a picture from the 30s or something. Packards and stuff. A CJ5 Jeep does the same damn thing. You know what I mean? People got their phony way of doing things, and there's the practical way of doing things. You don't really need all the crap and superfluous doo-doo that the wealthy have. As a matter of fact, I see a lot of times, boy, I used to see this way back when with some of the younger people. As soon as they save up like $25,000 or $30,000, they go buy themselves a used BMW to try to make themselves look like one of these guys. And that is like the stupidest thing in the world. You should not focus in on what these yo-yos are about. Not in the least. As a matter of fact, some of the smartest people, now not everybody does this, it's got a lot of money, but some of them do. They'll drive cars that are very low key. They'll drive beaters that don't look like nothing. And they do that for a reason. That's their style. They'll drive cars with over 100,000 miles on them and stuff like that. Not everybody does that, but even when somebody that has a lot of money buys these expensive cars, it's like you going out to a store and buying a sandwich from a shopping center or something like that. I mean, it's like spending $10 or something. It's like a pittance. You don't want to be playing any kind of games like, look at me. That's how people get in debt. And that is, most of the time, people are in debt because they're trying to play like some kind of big deal that they're not. Just like they go on vacations left and right, and they spend all their money on vacations, and what do they have? Nothing, right? I mean, it's right in the power of our hands to turn everything around, but people have to get off that phony baloney wagon and quit worshiping these idiots. And if you get down to practical things, you'll be fine. Cottage industry. So, but when these guys leave, they're going to leave with a lot of money. So you just remember, money is not really, it's like a guise, it's a medium of exchange. Um, the money that we got today really has no intrinsic wealth worth to it. I mean, silver and gold does, but the money we use today doesn't have intrinsic worth. But really, what is intrinsic worth? It's like what you create. And you'd be better off just being an entrepreneur or a cottage industry individual than working for one of these bastards anyway. So keep a positive attitude. But what I'm saying is, um, there is something coming up. It's going to be a pretty damn bad collapse. It's going to be worse than 2008, 2009. But I know what's going to happen on YouTube. The drama freak channels are going to be. That's why I've been lengthy on this, because I don't want people to be too scared about it, but I just want you to understand it really is not BS. I know I've been accused of trying to like scare people. I am not. I am not. I just put it out to you a different way and explained it over to you a few times. How capital flows out of where it's more more infrastructure, more stability, more or less corruption, more um, you know political stability besides economic stability. And as the United States is getting more politically corrupt and things like that, and infrastructure is falling apart, people are going to leave. They're going to leave, man. They're leaving. They're already leaving. Two examples are Mark Farber and Jim Rogers. They left years ago, but they saw the writing on the wall. There's going to be others that are going to follow, and that's just how it is.